Rotarians and guests. I'm Mark DeGraff, your president. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance this afternoon. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sometimes.
Thank you. Please be seated. Next we have William Vitetta, who's going to do our Rotary Minute, guest introductions, and has some of the rest of the program to share with you as well. William?
Thank you, President Mark. Rotary Minute for today is, I'm going to be up here for a while, so I got a lot of pay attention. Here we go. In looking around and learning more about Rotary, one of the things that I was fascinated.
Can't hear.
Mike.
Does this work better?
Yeah.
Wow.
Get shorty. Go short. Go shorty.
Okay. A very interesting fact that I learned about Rotary is one of the things that we do is work with youth and youth exchange. We talk a lot about, particularly here in our club. But there's a program for an adult exchange called Rotary Friendship Exchange. It's a program that was originated in 1981 by the New Horizons Committee. It is intended to encourage Rotarians and spouses to visit with Rotarian families in other parts of the world. It may be conducted on a club-to-club or district-to-district basis. The idea is for several Rotarian couples to travel together, travel to another country on the Rotary Friendship Exchange. Later, the hospitality is reversed when the visit is exchanged. After a successful pilot was experimented with, the Rotary Fellowship Exchange became a permanent program of Rotary. The Rotary Friendship Exchange is frequently compared to the Group Study Exchange program of the Rotary Foundation, except that it involves Rotary couples who personally pay for all the expenses of their inter-country experience. Doors of friendship are opened in a way which could not be duplicated except in Rotary. Rotarians seeking an unusual vacation and fellowship experience should learn more about the Rotary Friendship Exchange. Some unusual Rotary adventures are awaiting them. So that's Rotary Minute for today. Then guest introductions. As our custom is, I will I will say your name, the guest name, and have you stand. And as a club, we will all welcome you to our meeting today. So we've got Meg Wilson, who is a visiting Rotarian. Meg, would you stand? Hi, Meg. And then a guest of Meg Wilson is Mary McDonald. Hi, Mary. You can have a seat. Thank you. Oh, applications. We have transferring Rotarian. So if any of the other guests want to say anything like that, you'll get a position too. Zach Aarons has a guest, is Matt Sherbat. Is that right? Did I say that right? Vanna Ross has a guest, Liz Sage. Liz, if you would stand. Hi, Liz. David Beck's guest is Isabella Rios.
Hi, Isabella.
Todd Payne's guest is Sophie Tuchler. Is that right?
Hi, Sophie.
Did I say that right? Tuchler? Okay. Katie Brown's guest is Mary McBride.
Hi, Mary.
And we have another visiting Rotarian, Farron Barr. Hi. All right, all of our guests, thank you for coming today. Now we're going to have a red badge presentation. If Betty Morris and Robert Gould will please come forward. While they're coming forward, I'll start the introduction for each of them. Betty Morris, she was sponsored by Anita Walgast, and many of you may know Betty as her husband Mark Morris was a member of the Downtown Topeka Rotary Club. Betty received a degree first Betty's responsible for management of the Morris family investments and is president of the McMorran Incorporated. She met her husband Mark and they moved to Topeka in 1963. They have 3 children and 5 grandchildren. Betty received a bachelor's degree from Texas Tech in Lubbock, Texas, her master's degree from Cornell University, where she met her husband Mark, and her doctorate from K-State in a degree that combined human development and family studies. This is where I thought it got really interesting. Betty is a KU Jayhawk fan. And loves the energy and expectations as basketball season begins. Both her husband and her father-in-law, Mark Morris Jr., were Rotarians in downtown Topeka. Betty is especially interested in knowing more about the work that Rotary is doing to combat human trafficking. Betty was born in Amarillo, Texas. Her favorite toy as a child was a book. Reading was her favorite thing to do, and she really loved and considered it a treasure chest of the Canyon Public Library, which of course was just full of books. It kind of gives you an idea how much I think she reads. And she would often read late into the night as a child. The coolest technology, I love this one. The coolest technology when Betty was a child was a black and white television. And then this is how it's printed, an awful, embarrassing moment in Betty's life, thank you for sharing this, was when she worked in the Pine Room as a waitress at Rocky Mountain YMCA in Estes Park while she was in college. She picked up a coffee pot to refill a man's cup, not knowing that the handle on the pot was loose. When she turned the pot to pour the coffee, it spilled on the man's beautiful suede jacket. Then, not realizing that another waitress had cleaned up a jelly mess with a cloth. She made the bad situation terrible, as she puts it, by trying to blot the coffee with what she thought was a clean cloth. She will always remember the man standing stiffly, turning toward her and saying, "Stop, just don't touch me." Thank you for sharing that. Robert Gold was sponsored by Stan Teeter. Robert is retired and is one of 5 siblings. He has 2 daughters, 1 son, and 6 grandchildren. Robert graduated from Purdue University, Krannert? Say that again? Krannert School of Business. He served in Vietnam in the Army as an officer and in the Armored Division. His career led to senior leadership at Weston Foods. His most satisfying work was building teams and continuous improvement in the environment. Robert joined Rotary because he is committed to Rotary. He supports his involvement in things bigger than himself. He admires the efforts of Rotary in youth development and the eradication of polio. Robert grew up on a farm in central Illinois. His mother was a classically trained musician, and his parents emphasized education, hard work, and church on Sunday. He learned much from the lively discussions around the dinner table. When Robert has time for himself, he spends it exercising, reading, listening to music, and visiting with friends. Robert's favorite vacations were to Sandoval Island and the North Shore of Kauai, Hawaii with family. And he is checking into trips with Rhodes Scholars. So, downtown Rotary, let's welcome Betty and Robert. All right, last thing, we've got a blue badge presentation today to Nicole Ravenoff. Nicole would come up. As a reminder, the process of the Red Badge, Blue Badge program is to introduce each new member to Rotary and give them the best start as a new Rotarian. Each new member starts by completing 5 activities: attending an orientation, participate in a service project, serve as a greeter, contribute to the Rotary International Foundation or the Topeka Rotary Foundation, and update their profile on the club website. To earn their blue badge, they choose 3 other activities or ways to serve activities or ways to serve the club. And Nicole presented the Topeka Rotary Minute, introduced guests at the same meeting. She attended the district team leadership training in Lawrence in August, attended the World Polio Day celebration at the state capitol, and participated in the End Polio Walk. And Nicole is working on the district conference committee to plan the celebration for District Governor Blanche for April 2019, and has been elected to the Topeka Rotary Board of Directors beginning July 2019. And she will also be participating in the mentorship forward at Highland Park High School throughout the school year. Thank you for all your participation. Everyone, please stand and let's welcome Nicole. Now I'm done.
Thank you, William. A few quick announcements and then we'll get right to it. I know we have a lot to go over today and I'm excited to hear our program. Wanted to share that the Kansas Children's Service League is our charity. So they're the Kansas Children's Service League for Restorative Education. Their mission is to protect and promote the well-being of children. So that is our charity for this month, and the cup money goes to them. We do not have a social tonight. We do have a social next Thursday. It is at Happy Bassett Brewery. Pizza and wings will be provided, and then there'll be a cash bar. And we've also let the South Topeka Rotarians know that that's going to be available as well. So please come out. It's 5 to 7 at Happy Bassett Brewery. If you haven't been there before, it's just west of Wanamaker on 29th Street. And if you enjoy good beers, I don't think you'll be disappointed with what they turn out. Angel Zimmerman shared with me today that we just had our first Interact meeting at Topeka High. She has some photos from that exciting event, and we've gotten that started. She's going to share those with Linda, and we'll get those posted on Facebook. So please like and share those, and know that we just got that Interact effort at Topeka High launched, and they had the first meeting just recently. Next week, we are going to be at Jayhawk Theater, and we need a few folks to come at 5 o'clock the night before to help us set up with tables and to do that. So if you're interested in helping out at all, or 5 o'clock the night before works for your schedule down at the Jayhawk, please let either Yana or Linda know. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Janet, who will introduce our speaker today. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Our speaker today has been a Rotarian for 30 years. She is a member and past president of Topeka South Rotary. Patti has served in many district Rotary leadership roles, including district trainer, assistant governor, membership chair, district conference chair, and is currently district peace chair. Patti received the Rotary International Service Above Self Award in 2009 and is a Rotary benefactor and major donor. Patti is owner and CEO of Key Staffing and Premier Employment Solutions in Topeka and Manhattan, Kansas, and was a 2016 inductee into the Topeka Business Hall of Fame. Patti's favorite pastime is fishing and spending time with her 12 grandchildren. A great blessing. Please welcome Patti.
Thank you. I hope that I'm going to start off with a little video here, and it's actually part of the Rotary International Convention from 2 years ago in Atlanta. And so, where is Linda in case? All right. All right. All right. Can you hear it in the back?
I've been on FBI raids where I've seen things that no person should ever see. I've seen video content of a child that's the same age as mine being raped by an American man that was a sex tourist in Cambodia. And this child was so conditioned by her environment that she thought she was engaging in play.
About this. I think when I think about the problem, it's sort of easiest to think about how I became aware of it, in a sense of what it is that I'm aware of, and then kind of stay in my lane from there. So as a young man coming up in the public school system in America, I thought slavery was done.
Right.
Like you hear about Abraham Lincoln, you hear about the abolition of slavery, and you go, okay, this is a done deal. It's not really on anybody's docket. And then, as an adult, to learn not only that it's alive and prospering and growing, but that it's legitimately one of the largest illicit trades in the entire world, and in the fastest growing illicit trade in the entire world. Because the capital or the product is so abundant. If you're a trafficker, you're looking at this audience going, hey, there's a lot of product here that I can move. And it's very easily moved from country to country. And so when I realized that this was happening, I was in shock and awe that it was happening right underneath all of our noses. And I brought it up to a friend of mine who said, oh, no. It's happening here, like right here. And I was in Los Angeles at the time. He said, within any 3 blocks from where we're standing, I was inside of a synagogue. He said, within any 3 blocks of where we're standing, you can go buy somebody. And I was floored by the notion of that. We're in Atlanta, Georgia, which is one of the hotbeds for sex trafficking in this entire country. It's here, underneath our noses. And so, from a sex trafficking perspective, which is where my foundation's really focused, just to give you a little sizing relative to the market, there are 125,000 advertisements that go up online that my organization looks at every single day in the United States of America. So from a sizing perspective, those are people being advertised for purchase. So that's a little bit of the scope relative to sex trafficking, and it goes much further than that, but just to get sort of a range of what we're dealing with here. Senator Corr.
I grew up in a small lumber town in Southern Oregon. I was an average all-American girl who had never been put in an at-risk youth category. I played varsity sports, I was on the honor roll, and I graduated a year early, accepted into Oregon State University. The summer after graduation, I got pregnant, and I had to withdraw from my dorm room, and I stayed at home with my parents and had my daughter. But I kept moving forward. I enrolled in community college as a single mom, and when I went off to college and moved in with my friends, those same vulnerabilities resurfaced. And while all my friends were off doing what college kids do, I was the girl stuck at home with the kid. Until I met the most amazing man. He was funny and charming, and for 6 months he dated me. He got to know my hopes and my dreams and my fears. He slowly pushed the boundaries of hypersexuality in my life. And after 6 months, he invited us to move in with him. See, trafficking is not always abductions. It's a slow, gradual expansion of boundaries and an increase of trust. The day that me and my daughter arrived in Las Vegas, which is where he moved us to, the day that we arrived, he forced me into human trafficking. For nearly 6 years, I was sold between 3 different traffickers. I had 3 other women that were in the home with us and 2 children. During those nearly 6 years, I was branded twice, having 2 different men tattoo their names on my back like a piece of cattle. My face had been broken in 5 places. I was hospitalized for dehydration and overexhaustion, and I had been to jail 7 times. But I was never kidnapped or duct taped or locked in a room with a dirty mattress. The reality is that my daughter may have gone to school with yours, that I may have stood next to you in the grocery store line, and nobody ever noticed. Nobody ever noticed because we all envisioned that one way, and trafficking survivors included. I went through the thought of, I got on the plane willingly. I got out of the car willingly. I didn't fully understand the complexities of force, fraud, and coercion played out in my everyday life. Thankfully, in 2007, federal investigators raided the home and allowed me and my daughter an eventual avenue for escape. But I can tell you that running was not the hard part. The hard part was choosing poverty. The hard part was starting over at 26 with an 8-year-old girl being homeless. The hard part was having a criminal record, a huge gap in job history, and more trauma than any person should live with. The hard part was what now?
So hopefully, will the dancer work here? Excellent. Okay. Okay, sorry about that. Can you hear me now? Okay, so you're probably sitting there thinking, okay, Patty, yeah, right. There's trafficking in Atlanta, there's trafficking in California, but it's not here in Kansas, right? That's the same thing that I thought last March when I first got involved with this. I thought, okay, well, even if there is trafficking here in Kansas, then it's at the truck stops, right? How many think it's at the truck stops? That's what I thought, but that's not the truth. Let me just talk to you a little bit about what the truth is. Okay, so, go ahead. Let's see what the Department of Justice says. Oh, so you just need to there you go. Okay. So the U.S. ranks second in sex trafficking only to Germany. Kansas is an originating state because of the intersection, if you want to arrow again. You've probably seen this kind of map before as it pertains to drug trafficking. Okay, so we have several interstates crossing through here, and that's what makes us a hotbed for trafficking, just like he said Atlanta was. Again. More than 83% of the victims in Kansas involve domestic victims, which means that they are Kansans. They're not people brought in from other places. They are people right here in Kansas that are being victimized, and the majority of those are children. Children's Mercy is seeing 1 to 2 sexually assaulted victims, children, every single day. The FBI reports, get this, there's an increase in demand for 0 to 3-year-olds for trafficking. Oh, sorry, Topeka statistics. Okay, the rescue mission received 131 referrals in 2017. 128 of those were women, there were 3 men. The YWCA received 70 referrals as of this November, 70 this year, as of November. In 2018, the agencies that are rescuing victims are seeing 5 to 6 victims every single week here in Topeka. Hitting again? Yeah, if you just, there. Okay, so I want to talk to you a little bit about what sex trafficking is. It's the second largest black market in the United States, mainly because one person can be sold over and over and over again. Not like drugs, where you just sell it one time. They are selling women over and over and children over and over again. What we're seeing is that most of these victims are sold 12 to 15 times a day. 12 to 15 times a day. It's reducing people to objects just to earn money. We're estimating that exploitation profited traffickers $99 billion in 2017. And as you heard Ashton Kutcher say, 125,000 victims on the internet every single day. You can buy people, 125,000 of them. Any exchange, whether it's food, money, housing, drugs, whatever, for a minor is trafficking. Not prostitution, trafficking. Modern day form of slavery, which we already talked about. A few of the truths about trafficking, as you saw in the video, traffickers groom their victims. It's normally not, I'm abducting you and gonna make you a victim. They groom them. They employ fear, sexual and physical violence, poverty, homelessness in order to keep those victims. Sometimes they use drug addiction, and of course they prey on the very vulnerable people, and as she said, they brand people. And I have had people in audiences in Topeka say they have seen victims that have been branded. All right, so there's three parts to this problem really. There's the victims, the traffickers, and the demand. And so all three parts of those have to exist or trafficking wouldn't exist. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each one of those areas. The victims first. 1 in 3 victims is under the age of 18. 14 is the average age of victims right now. And the average age that's recovered is 18 to 24. Only 1 to 2% of victims are ever rescued and recovered. And what we're seeing is that it takes 5 to 6 times to rescue a victim before they're truly rescued and don't go back. Most of them are females, and they're recruited through the romantic relationship activity. They view their trafficker as a boyfriend and protector. Over 70% have a history of child sexual abuse of some nature, and so they're very vulnerable. They're looking for somebody to love them and take care of them. They don't see themselves as a trafficking victim. They don't see the situation that's happening to them. And when they do, they fear retaliation from gang rape and blackmail and poverty. They blame themselves because they went willingly, in most cases, into this situation, and now they don't have a way out. Okay, go ahead. So you're probably sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, so are my children, are my daughters, my granddaughters vulnerable? Well, I just want to look at a few things. You should be able to just arrow. Just try it again. Just oh, too far. Okay, so here are some things that you might think about. Does your child attend high school? And the reason I say that is because right now in our high schools, at least 2 of the high schools that I've had people confirm it in, we have trafficking going on. There are boys that are selling their girlfriends to other boys in the high school for money to buy drugs, primarily. And I've had mothers confirm that they asked their son about this and said, yes, it's the truth. That's what's going on in our high schools in Topeka. Do they have access to Facebook or Snapchat? Snapchat right now is really dangerous for kids. Some of you are shaking your head. Yeah, they are recruiting people over Snapchat. Kids, for some reason, think that they should put naked pictures on Snapchat, and then those can be used to blackmail them into trafficking. The naked pictures that are on the internet are being tracked by the FBI. They're being tracked by the traffickers also. So very dangerous. Fortnite is a game that you can interact with other people on and get into these groups, and I'm understanding that traffickers are now using that as a way to recruit victims. They befriend you and get you into a relationship on Fortnite. So if your grandchild or child is playing Fortnite, you really need to take a look at what they're doing. Do they go to the mall? I mean, we know that the Topeka Mall is a place that they're being recruited also. So pay attention to that. They're approaching kids with modeling careers or pictures. Does your daughter or granddaughter spend the night with friends that you don't know? All of these are warning signs that you need to be aware of. Okay, so that's about the victims. Let's look at the traffickers. So the traffickers, the average in Topeka is 40 years old, but the range of most traffickers is between 19 to 45 years old. 24% of these are females. Now that might come as a shock to you, but what happens is the most tenured victim that the trafficker has becomes a recruiter for him. And she thinks that if she is recruiting and bringing more women in, more children in, then she won't have to be sold as much, which of course we know isn't the truth. They are called the bottom bitch. And this information that I have is from Arizona State University. 50% of the traffickers have a high school diploma or a GED. 95% have had a history of drug or alcohol abuse. 90% have a criminal record. 48% of them tend to be family members, or as 28% a spouse or a partner. This information is from the Kansas Attorney General's office. So they are trafficking their own partner. Most traffickers can make $220,000 a year from one victim. So those of you who are employers are probably thinking, I wouldn't hire that person. They have a criminal degree, they don't have a high school diploma, they have drug abuse. It's not somebody that we would typically hire, right? But if you take one of these guys off the street, there are all kinds of applicants for that job. They're just going to come right in and take over. So it's very difficult to stop the traffickers. 56% of the traffickers use hotels as their location. So our hotel industry, we really need to put on guard about this. And I already talked about the high school students. Okay, so those two areas, I don't know how we stop traffickers, I don't know how we stop victims, stop people from being victimized, but what about the demand? I mean, that's my main message, is I'm out here to say, this is not a victimless crime. The average buyer is 40 years old, but it ranges from 18 to 89 years old. In the US, they estimate 15 to 20% of men pay for sex. 99% of those are male, 70% are white male. 60% of those have a full-time job. So they're the people who work for us. 52% are married or in a serious relationship. Many men, if not most, or not all, believe that it's a victimless crime. But as you can see, it's not a victimless crime, especially when the average victim now is going to be 14 years old. That is not a victimless crime. Research has shown that pornography is the gateway to sex trafficking. And I think back in the 70s when we really made pornography mainstream, that's probably when this started to become more prevalent, because it's gotten worse and worse, and as you can see, the victims are getting younger and younger. This is a shocking thing to me. Arizona State University did a research project that they picked 10 cities in the United States, and Kansas City was one of those cities that they picked. They placed an ad to buy sex online for 2 weeks. In a 2-week time period in Kansas City, Missouri, 106,000 men responded to that ad. To me, that is shocking. Worse yet, there was a study done where they posted an ad for sex with a child online in Independence, Missouri. 500 men responded in 24 hours. This is a huge problem in Kansas. Okay, so those are the 3 things, and I'm not really going to tell you how to solve it, but I do have some things that we are doing, we meaning all of us, because some of this is a project that Downtown Rotary, Topeka South Rotary, and North Topeka Rotary went together on and started some projects to help the victims. So that's my first thing here. Oh, and I forgot, since I'm the Peace Chair, I really want you to become a Peace Builder Club. And all that really means is that you, probably the president, gets somebody to be the Peace Chair for your club, and then really look at everything you do through peace. How does this build harmony? How does this prevent conflict resolution in our community? So really easy to do, and I think an important step. So in our district, we are putting the Human Trafficking Project under the Peace Chair, which is my position. So our first project is the Be an Angel, and I have some of these brochures back on the table back there. But what this is essentially, you would say that you will pledge to give up to $100 to help a victim. So the agencies that rescue victims here in Topeka have situations that come up in the middle of the night. And let's say that they have a victim whose family is in Tulsa. And so they're thinking the best idea would be to get this victim back to the family in Tulsa, but on the bus. But how does that happen? Because the agencies don't have any money to pay for this. The victim doesn't have any money to pay for this. So they would go ahead and buy the bus ticket for $84. The next morning they would call you and say, Mark, do you want to fund this ticket for $84? And you would say yes or no, hopefully yes. And then you write a check for $84 to reimburse the fund that they took the money out of. You can then put your name at the bottom of the list, or you can just drop off, whichever way you want to do it. But this is something that we really think will help the agencies. It's being administered through STARS, which I know that you all have worked with the Center for Peace and Justice before on some projects, and they're the ones who are administering this program. So you can sign up for that with the brochure. You can email me, or there's information on the brochure. Go ahead. So the next one is the Fresh Start kits, and I know that you guys have been collecting items for these kits already. What happens when the victims come in, they have nothing except the clothes on their back, which is generally not much. And so the Fresh Start kit is a way to help these women get a new start in life. We want all new things so that they know how much we care about them, because they haven't had anybody caring about them in the past. We want full-size shampoos and conditioners. The list is on the back of the handout that's on your table. There are a couple things that we don't need any more of. These again are distributed through STARS, and we completed 51 kits. Our goal was 50, but we completed 51 kits in November already, and we plan to do another 50 kits in February. So we're still collecting items for those 50 kits that we're going to be doing in February. I got this idea through the Attorney General's office and through an agency in Wichita that rescues victims. Last year in Wichita, they gave out 400 kits. And if we're looking at Topeka having 5 to 6 victims every week, do the math on that, how many we really should have in Topeka. So right now, we're not going to be able to meet the needs of the community, but this is so important to those victims to have these things. One of the things that we ask for on there is gift cards to a fast food place. The reason that that is so important is because these victims have not had any choice. And you cannot believe how important it is to them to know that they have a choice to go to Subway and pick out whatever they want to eat. It really makes a big difference to them. We're also asking for cards of encouragement that you write a note in, and that's very important to them too, to know that somebody cares. That's what one of the kits looks like. Okay, so the next one is SafeLine, and we purchased 40 phones in November through money that was raised through our clubs, through the grant. You guys gave $500 towards the grant that we got from the district. Through that money, and also Security Benefit gave us $3,500 for this project. And so a lot of the money for the phones came from them also. The reason that a SafeLine, a phone, is so important is that when somebody is taken in as a victim, the first thing the trafficker does is take their phone, change the password, and put tracking software on that phone. So if she does try to escape, he knows exactly where she went. And that's another dangerous thing with Snapchat, by the way. So there's a feature on Snapchat where you can locate the victim, locate the person who sent that picture. So they can tell exactly where you are. I took the app off of my phone when I learned it. So you just might think about that and make sure to talk to your kids about that. So anyway, the SafeLine phone, oh, the other thing, they sent alienating messages to the parents and the family of the victims. So this victim is now cut off from everyone. So when we put her on the bus to Tulsa, there's no pay phones, right? So she needs a phone that she can contact somebody or, you know, call her family or call emergency or whatever. And so that's what this project is for. We buy those burner throwaway phones. I got Best Buy to give us a really good deal on them. Amazingly, they're very supportive also. And then we get a prepaid card. We want to have smartphones only because when the card is up, they need to be able to go someplace where there's Wi-Fi and still use it. And I guess my time's almost up, so I'm going to hurry. Because I want to talk to you about this. So I was meeting with the agencies who rescue victims and giving them the kits and giving them the phones and everything and saying, okay, what else can we do? So there is something else really important that we can do. These victims have legal troubles and sometimes they can't leave town because of that and they have no money, and again, agencies don't have money to pay for attorneys. They have medical problems because they have sexually transmitted diseases or who knows what. They need a dentist because, and I'm sorry, but I'm going to tell you the reason why they need a dentist. Some of these women, especially the ones who are forced to work in massage parlors in Topeka, Kansas, have had their teeth pulled so that they can better service their clients. I said, this is happening in Topeka, and I was told, yes, this is happening in Topeka. So we really need services of dentists. Tattoo removal. I don't know if any of you know how to do that, but that's another thing because they would like to have their brands removed, their brand that they've been tattooed with. So that's another important thing. And there are probably other services, but these are the things that they mentioned to me right off. So if you're interested in helping with any of that, certainly get a hold of me and I can put you in touch with the agencies. And okay, Demand and End, you probably heard about the press conference. We've partnered with Attorney General's office. Would like to have you go online and sign that petition to demand an end. There are laws that need to be changed in Kansas. One of them that Kathleen just told me about yesterday was, I guess we're one of only 3 states that does not require massage therapists to be licensed. And that's why the traffickers are bringing these massage parlors here. So if we can get that changed, I mean, there are laws that need to be changed. And the Demand and End petition is going to help the legislature realize how important this is. Want to go on? That's a poster that you could get for your business. Freedom Now, I don't know if you've heard about it. I'm not going to take time to talk about it, but it's a coalition of businesses working on human trafficking in Topeka that you could join. Most importantly, it's really a lot easier than you might think to download this presentation and just click on the link and show your family, show other people at work, you know, show whoever you want to. It doesn't have my name on it, and I don't want my name on it because, as you might imagine, dealing with the traffickers, I just don't want that exposure. It's not really safe to be a one person out there fighting this. As a group, as a community, it's certainly great for us to fight this, but don't try to fight something on your own. Be aware that it's dangerous. And that's all I have. Thank you.
We have a history here of asking our speaker to sign the book plate of a book, and this one is Be Brave, Little Penguin. Very appropriate. And so we'd like you to sign that, and in your honor, we'll donate that to the Ross Elementary Library. Folks, I would encourage you to look deep into your heart and do what you can to support this effort. I do think that when we end polio and we get to preventing polio from coming back, that Rotary probably likely will look at this issue internationally, and it may be the next big thing that Rotary does internationally. I'd just like all of you to give Patti another round of applause for picking this up. I'm sure she'll be available after we're done here to answer any questions and chat with folks. And I would encourage you to go to demandandend.kansas.gov and sign the petition and do everything you can to exert influence and support efforts to help these people. I've seen them firsthand, and they are crippled, and they go through things that nobody should ever go through. So next week we are at the Jayhawk Theater. Again, if you have the ability at 5 o'clock on Wednesday, afternoon to go and help set up tables. We'd appreciate your help. Please contact Linda or Yana to let them know that you can do that. And also, we're going to ask you to register for a meal. We're going to do registrations for meals next week. Carl Chinnery from Kansas City, a fellow Rotarian, is going to come down with a Rotary challenge, a membership challenge for us. And I think it's going to be an incredible program as well. So I'm really looking forward to it. Our own Larry will bring that into town, and a number of his friends that he's met through Rotary may attend as well. So with that said, please stand and join me in saying the 4 1/2 way test. Of the things we think, say, and do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And is it fun? Please remember the social next Thursday night, 5 to 7.